Okay, welcome back everyone. So we're testing out the new brake controller that I just had installed in this 2022 Toyota Tacoma. Okay, so we're towing this 38 horsepower Kubota. The tow capacity of this Tacoma is 6,400 pounds, and we're right about there. We're just a tiny bit underneath the max tow capacity with the combination of the tractor and the trailer here. Now, the nice thing about this tractor trailer is that I am able to move the tractor front and back to make sure that I have a good balance that doesn't put too much tongue weight and push down on the back of the truck. So what I did is I used the tape measure, and what I did is I measured from the ground to the top of the fender over here, right underneath the wheel. So I got 35 inches in the back and 35 inches in the front. And then what I also did is I measured over here 28.5 inches on this side, 28.5 inches over there from the ground to the top of this frame. So the truck is level. And the other test that I'll do is I'll come up over here and I'll basically push down on this to make sure I'm not all the way down on my springs. And what I'll also do is I'll put one hand here and I'll pull up. Okay, so as I'm pulling up, I also have movement, right? So so what that means is there's a minimal amount of tongue weight going down on that hitch. The max capacity of the tongue weight is 640 pounds. So if I had to guess, I'm probably got about 300 pounds on there, just because of, like I said, I can grab this and I can pull up on it. So that tells me there's not a whole lot of pressure pushing down on it. And of course, like I said, the truck is level, which means the headlights are pointing where they're supposed to be pointing, that up towards the sky. So let me show you guys. That's the brake controller that I just had installed over here. I have it set to 5.5. We'll start off with that, and then we'll see if we need to adjust it. And then this over here regulates how quickly it attaches. So I have it at the halfway point here. And over here, I have the, what do you call this thing? The Scan Gauge 2. Okay, Scan Gauge 2. So this gives me some very useful information that's otherwise not available, because Toyota gives you this completely useless panel here that has just idiotic information that's not useful for working with. Okay, so I need to know what the transmission temperature is. I need to know what gear I am. Right, this truck doesn't even tell you what gear you're in. I need to know what the water temperature is. Right now it's at 184, and it's also nice to know what my miles per gallon is that I'm burning. How much fuel am I burning through? Okay, so there's a gear selector over here. We're going to be towing mostly in the S position, which basically is a gear limiter. Okay, this limits it to fourth. It's a gear limiter. We're going to start off limiting this at the 4th gear, because 5 and 6 are overdrive gears. Now, I spoke to Toyota. They told me if you get on the highway at cruising speed, it's okay to put it into D and let the overdrive gears work and save some gas. But locally, I'm going to want to keep it in the S position. Okay, and then there's that ETC button, electronically controlled transmission. That basically is a tow haul. What that does is when I push that button there, what that's going to do is it's just going to stretch. It's going to hold the gears a little bit longer, right? So you'll allow it'll delay the gear shifts basically, so that I get a little bit more torque. Okay, so let me put this on the tripod, and we're going to take this for a drive. All right, got you guys on the tripod. Let me get around the truck. Tripod. So the nice thing is I can swing you guys around, and you can see the tractor behind us, and I can also see that the camera's running, and I can rotate this around, and you guys can see front, and you can also see the dash over here. All right, so we're starting off with a transmission temperature of 154. That's just from the truck idling. Okay, water temperature is 188. We're going to start off with the S position. All right, and let's roll forward. So we're in 2nd gear. The camera is about 2,000. So the water gauge that comes with the truck is pretty useless. It's not sensitive enough. So that's why the water gauge that's on the scan gauge, that gives me a more precise reading. Right now I'm up to 197. Transmission temperature's up to 165. So transmission temperature's rising pretty quickly. So the max on this is 280. Okay. If it gets up to about 280, what Tocoma told me, but Toyota told me to do is to pull over, let the truck idle, so that the oil will circulate and it will cool down. All right. Now I don't expect that we'll get near max because we're not going to be going far, but okay, it's up to 180. Transmission temperature up to 183. We're in 4th gear. Lights on, we're starting to get dark. First, I applied a little bit of brake pressure to see how it would feel. Truck's braking good. I'm not exactly feeling a pull in the back, because if you apply too much brake pressure, if you set the control too high, then the back really pulls hard when you brake. I got a couple of cars behind me right now, so I can't play around with that too much. Yeah, I think I want to set the brake control a little bit higher. So I should be able to do that while I'm driving here. So let's go up to, it's at 5. Let's go to 6.5. So brake control is set to 6.5. We're basically pulling in 3rd gear. That's getting us up to about 30 miles an hour, 2,000 RPM. Part of the reason why I'm going to be reading out loud these numbers, because this is information I was trying to find out when I was, basically shopping around with this truck and trying to get information about towing it. And as I was watching other people's videos on towing with a Tacoma, I mean, this is the information that would have been useful to me. Okay, so right now we're cruising at about 40 miles per hour. We're in 4th gear, 2,000 RPM. We're burning getting about 10 miles per gallon on level ground. I mean, it's, like right now it's shot to 19 miles per gallon, 16. I'll read out the numbers, 16. So on level ground, we're doing 16. Slight descent over here, 22 miles per gallon over here. So this information is coming straight from the car's computer. Now, as I'm driving, I am feeling like a little bit of a up-down, so it might need a little bit more tongue pressure. We just went over a bump. I didn't feel anything major. So the torque converter is at 185. So when you're setting up the scan gauge, there's 2 numbers that you can set up. One is the temperature in the oil pan of the transmission, and the other one is the torque converter itself. The torque converter temperature is going to fluctuate more. It's going to get hotter. So that's what I kept, because you can only have 4 pieces of information reading out here. So I didn't think it was useful. So I had to kind of select. So right now we're up to 204 degrees on the torque converter. So temperature's rising. Water temperature staying level at 193. We're getting about 9.5 miles per gallon, going up this slight upgrade. So nice thing about this transmission, it does have partial locking and full locking, which allows you to engine brake. So the way it works with these automatic transmissions is it's basically a fluid drive system, and it's something I really wouldn't be able to give you guys the detail of how a fluid drive system works in an automatic transmission, but I invite you guys to look up the fluid drive system of an automatic transmission. But this also locks, and that locking mechanism also allows the truck to engine brake when it's going downhill. That's interesting. The temperature dropped to 181. So the transmission cooler is definitely doing its job. Okay, temperature has dropped. The truck is towing really nice, and this is a pretty hilly area that we're driving through. Lots of curves, and I definitely wanted to go through this on a dry day, on the controlled conditions where I'm not in a rush to get somewhere, you know, so that in the wintertime, I mean, what I plan to do with this truck is in the wintertime, if we get like 2 feet of snow in this, you know, the plow trucks sometimes have a real hard time plowing some of these developments around here. So when we get like 2 feet of snow, that's when I plan to bring this truck out. And the nice thing about this is when we get like 2 feet of snow, I mean, you know, this truck is, you know, I can easily, I mean, on a short driveway, I'll hit it for $200. On a medium-sized driveway, that's up to like maybe, I don't know, 75 feet. I mean, I'll hit it for $300. There's some driveways out here, they're really long. They'll go like 200 feet. That's a $500 job, you know. So that's where this will make some, you know, some side money. So here we go. So temperature, because now we're going up hills here. So we're cruising in 3rd gear. Temperatures, transmission temperature 210. You can hear the engine humming. But definitely no trouble pulling up these hills. I mean, these are hills, okay? These are short, tight hills. And now we're going downhill. I'm kind of pulsing my brakes here. I can see that with the setting I have on it, I'm braking pretty good. Transmission temperature's dropping. It went down to 194. Now it's up to 206. So it's right around that 200. So transmission temperature staying around 200, towing at the max capacity of 6,400 pounds. Now, one of the things I don't plan to do with this is like race it, you know, when I'm towing, because I've seen videos of people like go get on the highway and they're trying to get up to like speed like as fast as possible. Okay, you know, that's not what I plan to do with this truck. You know, I plan to, you know, ease it up to speed. Now, prior to this truck, I had a 2012 Toyota Tacoma. That was a 4-cylinder. I think the torque on that, the horsepower on that, I think was 160. Torque was like 180. That I didn't want to try and tow something this heavy. We just dropped down to 2nd gear here. We're going up a steep incline. Torque converter temperature 222. It's the highest we've seen it. So it's up to 220 right now. 222. See if it comes down. So with my old truck, which was a 4-cylinder, that was a 5-speed manual transmission. You know, the main reason why I didn't want to tow with that is because it didn't have the transmission cooler. And when I spoke to Toyota, they told me the same thing with that truck way back in 2012 when I bought it. I had also bought that brand new. They told me that the main issue, because here's the thing, with a 5-speed transmission, I mean, you could pull, you could pull it. You'll just do the work in a lower gear. But the issue was the transmission overheating. So that truck couldn't do it. So what I would do is, if I needed to tow this tractor around, I would actually go to U-Haul and I would rent like an F-150 or a 1500. So that's what I've been doing for the last couple of years. I used to have an F-550. I used to tow this around really easy with that. But after I had to get rid of the F-550 because it was like a 1999. It was just starting to rust out from underneath me. The maintenance expense on that was getting really expensive. So what I did is when I got rid of the dump truck, right, because I was an F-550 dump truck, what I did is when I had to tow this tractor, what I would do is I would go to U-Haul and rent out one of their F-150s or 1500s. It would cost me something like $80, and I would get this where I needed to go. By the way, torque converter is down to 188. So the temperature on the torque converter had peaked. We had seen it peak at around 220, and now it has dropped to 186. So it's having no trouble pulling this up and down these hills. No trouble cooling the temperature down. Water temperature is at 197. We're going downhill in 4th gear. What I was trying to say earlier about this transmission having the ability to partially lock and unlock, that allows you to engine brake as you're going downhill. So as you're engine braking, that basically saves your brakes. Okay. Let me try to figure out where I want to go from here. What I want to do is basically find a place to turn around. Because I've got plenty of data now as far as what this truck can do and what it can't do. And it can easily pull 6,400 pounds around here locally. So transmission temperature's up to 203. We're getting about 9 miles per gallon. Now I jumped up to 13 miles per gallon. So we're cruising in 4th gear over here. Let's see, is there a place I can turn around in here? Yeah, it looks like a nice big parking lot. Turn around in here. Here, I'll flip the camera around for you guys. Yeah, as soon as I brake, I can definitely, at this point when I brake, I can feel the trailer pulling in the back. So you want to have the trailer set so that it brakes first, but at least a little bit. This way you don't jackknife. You know, you want the, you know, because otherwise if the truck, let me swing this around so you guys can see what's going on behind us. Make sure the camera's working. There you go. So when you're braking, you want to set your trailer so that it brakes just a little bit earlier, because if the tow vehicle brakes first and then the trailer is pushing it, that's going to jackknife you. So that's the Kubota L3800. It's a 34 horsepower tractor. I've done a number of videos on the tractor. I actually have I keep this one at this location. I have a new L3901, also 38 horsepower tractor, but that's a new one. That's like a 2021. And what I had decided to do is that, especially in the wintertime, like through the snow and stuff, it was just too much trouble to try and move one tractor back and forth between different locations. What I decided to do was it was just a lot more convenient just to buy a second tractor and just keep that at the other location. And then this way I can, you know, basically they're like at opposite ends of this town, more or less. And what that allows me to do is, if I got one tractor at one end of the town, you know, I decide which they need to go out and do some work, I can decide which of the two tractors is closer, and then I can use that, you know, I can use that tractor to get to that location and do the work. Now this is basically a side gig for me, you know, I just some extra money. I ever do like sometimes if we get like 2 feet of snow, I'll put myself out there for some snow plowing, you know, but I'm not gonna go out there if we got like 4 inches of snow. It's got to be like 2 feet of snow where, you know, I can hit like somewhere between $200 and $500 a driveway, depending on the length of the driveway. And then in the summertime, like if you know, I'll also do some landscaping work, as far as like if somebody needs what do you call it, like a grading job, like I'll have a triaxle bring in dirt, and I'll use the tractor to level it out. Okay, so, or if somebody needs, let's say, gravel in their driveway, I'll have a triaxle come in and you know, I'll just spread out the gravel. So that's like easy money, you know. Now I used to have the F550, which was a dump truck. The problem with that is that it just holds so little. I mean, I think it was holding something like 2 to 3 tons in the back, and that's nothing if you're doing, you know, if you're trying to, you know, grade somebody's front yard, or if you're trying to put gravel in somebody's driveway. 2 to 3 tons is nothing. It's like this tractor, like I can spread out 2 to 3 tons in like you know, in maybe like 4 to 10 pushes with this tractor, right? So it's really not enough. So that's the reason why I'm like, you know what, there's no point in even having the dump truck, because it can't, you know, a small dump truck like an F550, because it can't hold enough. So that's when I decided to just get rid of the dump truck. And then if some work comes up, you know, basically I need a small tow vehicle like this to get the tractor to the site, and then I'll just, you know, call up the quarry and I can have them bring in either dirt or gravel or whatever I need, and they're bringing in like 20 tons. You know, that's enough that I can work with, you know. So that's where I mean, in any grading job that I do, I need 20 tons. So that's why having the F550, even though it was a nice sized truck and it pulled really easy, it was, you know, it just wasn't, going down downhill over here. See how we're braking? Braking good. Yeah, this is this is one of those downhill curves I gotta watch. So yeah, so that's why I got rid of the F550. It just wasn't that productive. You know, in most cases, I needed a bigger dump truck. I needed a tri-axle to bring me enough dirt. Anyway, with the torque converter, we are at 197. So the temperature's definitely maintaining around 200 degrees Fahrenheit up and down these hills, cruising in 4th gear. I mean, I have it in the S position, so that I'm preventing it from going into a higher gear. Now, if I get on the highway there, then I would shift it over to drive if I was on level ground. So, the videos that I do, a lot of times they end up being videos like I was looking for that information, couldn't find it, and then my mind is like, okay, this would be a great video to put out there for people to see, you know, because if I wanted the information, I couldn't find it. At the point that I am able to accumulate that information, I'm thinking that the video would be useful for other people to be able to see as well. So that's how I come about the idea of a lot of these videos. So again, we're staying at 200, we dropped down to 197 on the torque converter. So transmission temperature, no trouble at all. Pulling 6,400 pounds, no trouble at all. Up and down these hills, around these curves. I mean, if you're still with me at this point of the video, this is obviously something that you're really interested in, right? So you're probably in a similar situation like me, where you either just bought a Tacoma or you plan to buy a Tacoma and you want to know what this can do. Okay. So one of my complaints about, let's talk about some complaints about the Toyota, about the Tacoma. I mean, I am kind of second guessing myself that maybe I should have got the Ford Ranger, because that is rated for 7,500 pounds. Now a lot of times, you know, you don't know to what extent they're fudging the numbers, you know. So I mean, they're in the same class. But the reason why I got the Tacoma is because I had such a great experience with my last one, the 2012. So I'm like, all right, let's just stick to what I know. This is working for, you know, that's why I ended up with this. So some of the complaints, way too much electronics on this. They invested too much money and too much effort into putting fancy electronics into the truck, and the electronics that they did put into it are not very useful. So that's why I got to have this other gauge here, the scan gauge, that gives me like the transmission temperature. It gives me the gear, lets me know what gear I'm in, and lets me know what the, you know, and that gives me an accurate reading of the water temperature. We're just gonna head back now. I think I'm pretty satisfied with I know the information I needed to know. Water temperature is gonna basically stay around 200. Right now it's up to 220 because I'm going uphill, but I've seen it go up max 222, and then it goes back down to 200 once we get on level ground. Now, if I was trying to pull this trailer, the tractor, like through like a steady grade that's like maybe 20 miles long, I mean, yeah, that's, you know, that could be an issue. You know, that's definitely where I would need to monitor the transmission temperature, and if need be, pull over, stop, let the truck idle, and cool it down. That's what Toyota told me. If it gets too hot, just pull over, let the truck, let it idle so that the coolant is running, and it'll cool it down. Yeah, right now it came back down to 194. So no trouble at all pulling the max capacity. Now, if you're pulling a camping trailer, right, that's got flat surfaces on it, now you're also dealing with wind. Because pulling this tractor, I'm not working against the wind. The tractor's fairly aerodynamic, all right? And I'm not going at high speed either on the highway, which would also be an issue. If you're on the highway traveling long distances with a camping trailer, you're not just fighting the weight of your of the camper that you're pulling, you're also fighting the wind that the camper is pushing through. That's not going to be an issue with this tractor. So real quick, some of the problems I have with the Toyota: too much electronics, and the wrong type of electronics, right? Not electronics that give me the information that I need. I hate where they have the parking brake. That just takes up a lot of space. They got the parking brake on the side here next to the gear selector. They should have just had a T-hook that went underneath the dash, and that was out of my way. And then this space over here where the parking brake is, that could have been like another place to store things. So that's I really don't like that. And obviously the other problem with this, it's just way too expensive. I mean, they put all this electronic garbage into this truck, and it's like you almost can't get away with it because all these companies are just putting so much electronic into these trucks that you don't have a choice. You look at one truck, you look at the other truck, they all got electronic garbage. Now, the question might become, why did I buy an automatic transmission? By the way, I've driven a stick shift for almost 26, 27 years. I'm 50 years old now, so for almost all my adult life, I drove a stick shift. Main reason why I got the automatic this time around is because my wife can't drive the manual transmission, and we needed a second vehicle as a backup. And again, I also bought this truck with the as a 4-door because again, I needed some place to put my kids. So that was a consideration, you know. So I got the automatic transmission because I needed my wife to be able to drive it. And also nowadays, like realistically, as you're driving, you're doing other stuff, right? You know, I mean, you got like all this crap over here, so you can answer the phone and stuff, right? You got this. So you're talking on the phone, right? Because it's set up here so you can talk to the panel. So you're doing other stuff besides just working the stick shift with this hand over here. So it also became a practical consideration with that, you know. But the main reason I got the automatic is because I needed something that my wife could easily drive. You might ask, why not teach your wife to drive an automatic transmission? I think we've been together for about 17 years at this point. At this point, I'm not teaching her anything new, okay? We are way past the learning phase. She's, you know, I mean, I love her and all that, but, you know, there's no teaching after you've been together with somebody that long. So I think that's pretty much the end of the trip. I'm about to pull into my farm over here. Hope you guys enjoyed this. If you're not a member of the channel, subscribe. I mostly talk about guns in this channel, but sometimes we talk about other things too. Talk to you all soon.